नमस्कार आप सभी को स्टडी आई क्यू IAS में आप सभी का स्वागत है। मेरा नाम है उत्कर्ष सिंह और एंथ्रोपोलॉजी ऑप्शनल के एक इंपॉर्टेंट स्ट्रैटेजी सेशन में आप सभी का स्वागत है। बेसिकली इन दिस वीडियो वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस रिगार्डिंग हाउ टू स्मार्टली approach the basic and standard books for anthropology optional. Optional subject is probably one of the most important thing to choose. In fact, probably the only thing you have to choose in the UPSC examination, because your GS paper, your language paper, the essay paper and everything else, it is already prescribed. It is already well defined. The syllabus, the content and the approach. The only thing that you have to make your mind is about the optional subject. And there are plenty of optionals when we see the option list of UPSC, and almost each and every optional at some point of the time in the past have given good results. Some still keep giving good results despite being successful for past so many decades. So choosing the right optional is quite important, because technically also if we see, around 30% of the entire weightage is upon this optional subject. And we have also seen in the past that a lot of students who have given 3 attempts with a certain optional and weren't able to succeed, they switched their optional in the 4th attempt and they got all India rank. So optional is important because in GS we have a lot of subject. There is a lot to go through, multiple topics, multiple different areas to study, and there is 1,000 marks on stake. But if we see the average result of even the toppers, the result is somewhere around 415 to 435, the average range. That even the toppers, the most exceptional of the candidates, fail to exceed and go beyond 475. So in all likelihood, the maximum marks that you are going to get, even if you are topper and topper of superior caliber, then also you are going to get around 47% marks in the GS. You are going to give a lot of time for that. And we tend to ignore the optional. It is only one subject. It is half of the weightage as compared to the GS portion. GS is of 1000 marks, optional is of 500 marks. So मैं यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा कम attention और समय देता हूँ. But you fail to understand that the scoring potential of the optional is pretty high. For example, people who choose anthropology as an optional in past decade, if you see the result, people who weren't having anthropology as their core subject during graduation and post-graduation, they were able to fetch around 335 out of 500. There are candidates who have scored 350 and beyond, 362 Lakshmi Nagappan. So the marks is ranging between 67% to around 75-77%, which is pretty high as if we compare it with the 47% maximum reach of the GS portion. There is a difference of about 30% if we compare the max of GS to the max of the optional. So that is why selecting the right optional is important. And then when we are studying the right optional, especially this is for the students who go through the self-study portion, because if you are under some mentorship, if you are under some guidance, if you are under some live classes, or you are having any senior who has cleared the examination, you are having any teacher, let's say some anthropology faculty happens to be your relative, or some PSIR faculty or some other faculty happens to be your relative, you can contact him basically and you can get an idea कि मेरे लिए क्या सही होगा, किस तरीके से पढ़ें, क्या पढ़ें, कितनी देर पढ़ें. So for anthropology optional also, we need to keep in mind कि there are a lot of material available in the market. There are a lot of books which are prescribed. Every year some or the other new topper will come and he will suggest you complete new list कि ये सारी चीज़ें आपको ऑप्शनल के अंदर में पढ़नी है. And at times when we prepare the entire list which is recommended by the topper, we go through that. Next year some other topper will come and he say कि reading that book was a blunder, a mistake. In fact, you should have devoted your time studying this book. So we get into FOMO. Have we missed something important? क्या हमने जो अपने 1 साल यहाँ पर इंपॉर्टेंट थे वो गलत सोर्सेज के ऊपर लगा दिए? क्या प्रीवियस टॉपर ने कुछ गलत हमें बता दिया? सो ये डिलेमा हमारे दिमाग में अक्सर बना रहता है. एंड इन दिस वीडियो we'll be trying to cover some of the basic mistake that you go through while reading the basic textbook. So I hope कि you have already seen the previous video on books and resources for anthropology optional. Pretty much everybody is aware of what are the basic resources for anthropology optional. ठीक है? I can repeat it for you once. If you see, you may write it also somewhere, because I'll be writing a lot of the names of authors probably in short form. So for social anthropology, people tend to recommend D.N. Majumdar and T.N. Madan. All right. The book name is Introduction to Social Anthropology. If I'll have that, I'll probably show you also. If I have it here, let me see. Not exactly. I think it is currently not with me. Otherwise, I would have shown you the cover of the book, and you could also probably get an idea. Never mind. So this is the basic book. All right. After this, there are certain other books. There is a book by two authors, Nadeem Hasnan Sir and US Mishra. All right. And this book name is also similar to the first one, that is Introduction to Socio-Cultural Anthropology. The first one is Introduction to Social Anthropology. This is Introduction to Socio-Cultural Anthropology, and it is by US Mishra and Nadeem Hasnan. Some of the people, especially in the northern India, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, if you are in these areas, probably you must have heard these names, because Professor Nadeem Hasnan happens to be the ex-head of department, University of Lucknow, the third university to start anthropology program and a separate department in India. The first being Calcutta University, second followed by Delhi University. All right. So this was the third university, and in 2006, Professor Nadeem Hasnan was the head of department. In fact, Professor D.R. Majumdar also happens to be associated with University of Lucknow. He was the person who started the Department of Anthropology separately in University of Lucknow in the year 1950. So he was the first and inaugural head of department. All right. The third book, there is another book by a scholar named Makhan Jha. Makhan Jha. All right. This one probably is not very suitable. It is quite brief, and a lot of explanation is missed out here for the most of the part. So I probably have that also, and I will be showing you the cover image so that you can get an idea. This is the book, Introduction to Social Anthropology by Professor Makhan Jha. Now for physical anthropology, we have 2 to 3 books. One is by Professor P. Nath, Physical Anthropology. The other is B.M. Das. There are a lot of better books which probably nobody has discussed. The videos which I have basically seen on internet, probably nobody has discussed those books, and they are not of foreign scholars. So in the batches, we often recommend those books ki you have to go through this book for the physical anthropology part, because a lot of portion, the problem with the P. Nath, we are going to discuss that when we'll be discussing the smart approach to cover them. The problem with the P. Nath is basically that it tends to suppose or presume that you are already acquainted with a lot of knowledge about the physical anthropology and biological dimensions. So it supposes that you have done Bachelor of Science and then you are coming to this particular book. So a lot of the information is written in such a way that if you are not having any guidance, or if you are not under some live program or some mentorship program, if you are doing self-study of the self-reading of the book, half of the time you have to invest on searching the meaning of the terms and understanding the concept from the internet. All right. So some of the very technical terms associated with biological anthropology, you will find it clearly description is missing in those books. All right. So do keep this in mind before going ahead. All right. Now, after physical anthropology, we have archaeological anthropology. There are not much options. It is generally believed that archaeological anthropology is confined to only few of the resources, like people only speak about the book by Professor D.K. Bhattacharya. In fact, there are 2 books. One is dedicated to the European or the general archaeology. The other one is about Indian archaeology, and the name is Outline of Indian Prehistory. The cover might be different in your edition. The cover changes, but the content remains same. That is the biggest problem, that the content has not been updated at least for more than a decade now. All right. Now for the Indian anthropology and tribal anthropology. Indian anthropology and the tribal anthropology. For Indian anthropology, we do have a book again by Professor Nadeem Hasnan. All right. And for tribal anthropology also, Nadeem Hasnan Sir has written a book. Along with that, the very illustrious Professor L.P. Vidyarthi has also written a book, The Tribal Cultures of India. All right. One of the edition which is present here with me, this is the cover. It might be different in your edition, in your version. And one thing that you need to keep in mind, if you are in northern part of India, if you are in Delhi, if you are in Uttar Pradesh, if you are in Bihar, you should fetch these book from the local book hubs. All right, there must be some area which is selling books, known for selling books and this type of material. You should go there probably. All right, for example, if you are in Delhi, so in Delhi you can get these books around Daryaganj market. You can get these books around the Jama Masjid market. All right, there is Maila Hath also, so probably you can get a copy there also. Or if you are in Lucknow, there's a area named Aminabad in Lucknow. So at these places you'll find the books. If you are purchasing them all together, so you'll get it a lot cheaper. Even if you are purchasing a single copy, then also the rate is pretty much low as compared to the internet. On internet, the books are being sold for prices which are marginally higher than as compared to the local markets. For example, this book, it is probably of 80 rupees, and you can get this book for around 65 rupees if you go and buy it from the market, and if you are buying at least 2 to 3 books. But on internet, probably you might get this for 200 or 250. Similarly for other books also, which we shall discuss. All right, physical anthropology, I think I've not shown you the cover. This is for B.M. Das. This is the physical anthropology by B.M. Das, and this one is the physical anthropology by P. Nath. All right, so these are the set of books. Now one portion is missing here, which is anthropological theory. For theory also, we have one sole book which is heavily cited by a lot of people, which is basically book by Gaya, Pandey and Upadhyay. It is quite cheap. It is available for rupees 120. The MRP of the book is 150, but you'll get these books at around 120. But on internet, definitely the prices might be quoted as around 250, 300, 500. I've seen prices going beyond 500 also. At times, even if prices are lower, the delivery charges are quite gated because they are not published by popular publishers, HarperCollins or bigger like Arihant or Pearson. They are usually published in the local areas, in the local markets, and therefore the prices, shipping cost is quite higher, sometimes even more than the actual cost or the MRP of the book. So this is a book, the front page is missing. It's quite an old book which was present with me. The name is The History of Anthropological Thought. All right, there is another book by scholar Makhan Jha. We have already discussed Makhan Jha's social anthropology. This is the second book for anthropological thought. Quite thin. It is like a daytime or probably a sweet dreams book. Why I say sweet dreams book? Because if you start reading it around 9:30 or 10 p.m., if you have dinner earlier, then probably you can get through this book by 2:30 or 3 a.m. Within 5 to 6 hours. It is quite thin and highly insufficient for covering the UPSC portion or even giving you a understanding of the same. So these are the two books. Now we shall discuss what is the smart approach to cover these books and what are the basic problems. See, there are certain other sources also. For example, there is a book named Amber and Amber. इसका तो हमने पहले पन्ने पे कवर भी लगाया हुआ है. एम्बर एंड एम्बर का काफ़ी फेमस है. अ लॉट ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स डू आस्क, अर्लियर पीपल यूज्ड टू आस्क मी, सर व्हाई डू नॉट यू मेक वीडियोस, एंड एक्चुअली वी हैव मेड मोर देन 30 वीडियोस ऑन एम्बर एंड एम्बर, बट दैट इज नॉट क्वाइट हेल्पफुल. If you see the anthropology portion, if you have all the other books which are quite relevant from Indian perspective, you probably do not need to read Amber and Amber cover to cover. All right. The only few units that you will not find in D.N. Majumdar or Nadeem Hasnain or Makhan Jha is the portion of language, the unit 7 of your paper 1, unit 7 of your paper. Also, the unit 2.1 and 2.2 of the paper are not lucidly provided in the books that we have earlier discussed. So these are the books. In fact, the research portion also, unit 8 content also. All right. The good part of this book is that it is not for one section. It has content for paleontology, it has content for physical anthropology. I mean, a lot of portion of physical anthropology, for archaeology, definitely the general archaeology, and some other portions, relevant portion as well. But the problem with this book is it is quite vast. It is quite vast. And the length, the width, the number of pages, everything is quite vast here. And if you read cover to cover, there is a good reason that you might extend the number of hours which is actually required for anthropology optional. So I only suggest this book to the students who are in probably 3rd or 4th semester of their graduation program, because you still have around 1 year. So in that period, you can use this as a standard basic reading book. There are a lot of images. The text are quite lucid if you are reading through the PDF. If you are reading it on a laptop, on a tablet, the PDF edition has a colorful pages, but if you buy it online from some website, you'll get the black and white pages. The colored pages aren't available because the cost will get too high. All right. So this particular book has a lot of lucid diagram, representation, and you actually get interested while reading this book. So if you are in third semester or fourth semester, probably you should start reading with this particular book. You'll get interested. All right. A lot of people do suggest that you need to start firstly with the theory portion, but I have personally seen a lot of the students start getting bored when they start from the theory portion, and then they tend to think of anthropology as a subject which is a rock star subject, but the performance is not up to the mark. Like in Bollywood, you have a lot of stars like Salman Khan and other stars also, about whom you say, he's not that great at acting like some of the NSD stars, the stars from, not the stars, the actors from the National School of Drama or from theatre, but he's a big superstar. All right. So the actors of NSD, probably if they do a standalone movie, the movie won't even open to 5 CR. But if Salman Khan is starring in that particular movie, it is going to open at more than probably 50 CR. All right. So that is the difference. He's a 10x bigger star, and probably not 10x, 100x bigger star than compared to the theater actors. But his acting is not up to the mark. Same is the problem with these books. Same is the problem with this book. You tend to suppose that anthropology is quite a good subject. It is giving result. People are choosing it. So definitely it is good, but it is not probably good for me, or it is a boring optional, because you probably started from the portion where you might feel lethargic after certain chapters or chapter reading. In fact, the initial few units are quite interesting. If you go through evolutionism in theory, if you go through diffusionism in theory, even functionalism, you will feel engaged. But after that, when structuralism, post-structuralism and other theories start coming, you start feeling कि अब कितना थ्योरी पढ़ेंगे, तब से थ्योरी पढ़े जा रहे हैं, और एक ही यूनिट में है ये, पेपर 1 में आएंगे 2 ही क्वेश्चन, कितना समय इसको दे दें. That is the tendency that you develop a lot number of times, which I have seen in UPSC for a lot number of students. So the problem with this particular book, the theory book, is that it tends to miss 4 of the theories that are needed for UPSC portion. In UPSC, you have 10 different theories: evolutionism, diffusionism, functionalism, then you have structuralism, culture personality theory, symbolic interpretive theory, then you have cultural materialism, then you have cognitive anthropology, then you have postmodernism. Now, structuralism is often differentiated from functionalism is at times differentiated with structural functionalism. So that is considered as the 10th theory. Okay? So now out of these 10 theory, cognitive anthropology, symbolic and interpretative theory, postmodernism, these theories, and cultural materialism, these 4 theories are missing from this particular book that we have just discussed. So in theory, the best part is that it tends to be static. There are not much changes that are required or updation that are required, like tribal anthropology part. A new scheme comes in, you have to update the tribal anthropology material. But that is not true for the theory part. But the problem with the theory part in this particular book is that it misses the units from where a lot number of questions are coming in UPSC. For example, if you see the past 10 years PYQ cross-section, the highest number of questions have been asked from symbolic and interpretative theory, which is not present in this particular book, which is neither present in this particular book. Those theories are often present in some of the books which are published by foreign anthropologists. But if you are reading it on your own, and in the first attempt, you might not get well acquainted with that particular book. It might be a difficult reading for you, especially in the initial time frame when you have just been into anthropology preparation for a couple of months. All right. So that is the problem. So when you are reading this particular book, do not go through this book page to page. And one thing that you need to keep in mind, okay, there are a lot of scholars which are given in this particular book because it is not designed for the UPSC purpose. This is for undergraduate programs and probably sometimes used in postgraduate programs also. So I'll give you an example. If you have the syllabus, kindly open it. Go through paper 1, unit 6. The first theory is evolutionism, classical evolutionism of 19th century. There are only 3 scholars mentioned. First is E.B. Tyler, the second one is James Fraser, the third is L.H. Morgan. When you read from this particular book, you will find additional names. There is discussion about Merritt or R.R. Merritt. There is discussion about Henry Maine. There is discussion about McLennan. There is discussion about Bastian. There is discussion of Bachofen. So you are not supposed to go through this entire portion. And similarly for the other portions also. Functionalist, there are at least 3 to 4 times more functions that you need to know, that you need to be aware of. For structuralism, Edmund Leach and Levi-Strauss, there are only 2 scholars. And from that also, the questions are not repeatedly being asked. Hardly 3 to 4 questions I think 3 questions are being asked in past 10 years. All right. So when you are reading this book, keep syllabus in hand with you. Keep it in front of your eye. And focus upon the scholars who are being asked. All right. Plus, there is a lot of biographical context that is given. It is good for understanding part, to get interested in the subject, to build a relationship with the scholar so that you can retain the information for a much longer period. But the problem with that exercise is that a lot of biographical information and context about the awards, received award, the this and that, the journeys of these scholars, which is not UPSC oriented, which is not relevant for UPSC, that is being asked. In fact, the question is not going to be asked upon the journey of the scholar. All right. It is only going to give you a conceptual clarity probably and a deeper connection with the scholar. Nothing much. The questions are going to be asked from the basic framework of the theory and its application, its relevance. Not about the contribution part of Levi-Strauss, what he has achieved in his life, what books he has published. So keep that in mind while going through this particular book. And there are other options. For example, Alan Bernard is available, the foreign author. The book is available easily in PDF version and all the other version. Do not run behind that particular book. It is quite not according to the UPSC need. Also, the language you might find a little peculiar. When you read the journal books, you are acquainted with the journal books and these type of books which are written by foreign authors and scholars in a different time period, in a different flow. So that might give you a certain headache in the beginning. Keep that aside while preparing for UPSC. Now, there are certain websites also. For example, University of Alabama is there. So you may use that for getting a reference, for getting a summarized structure. At times, information will help you to understand the critical aspect of the theories. A lot of criticism are often cited. Introduction part can be derived from that particular portion. So you can use that also, but to an extent it is important. Beyond that, not much relevance. Coming to Amber and Amber, as we have already discussed, this is the cover of Amber and Amber. Amber and Amber, only these 2-3 portions are important. Apart from that, I have said if you are in 3rd to 4th semester, go through that. You might cover the book. Even if you are giving 2 hours, 2.5 hours a day, that won't be possible each and every day. Some days you might feel engaged and interested to read that book. The other day, not so much. So still you will be able to cover that book within, I think, 4 months. 4 months is enough to cover this particular book. Someday you might read it for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Someday you might only read it for 10 to 15 minutes. So in the up and down journey, it is possible to go through that particular book within 4 months. If you are very disciplined, you are committed, you can complete that within 1 month. There's no big deal. But it is not like a novel. It takes time and you do not need to hurry or set unrealistic target to complete a particular book. That takes away the interest and the depth with which you are required to read a particular textbook. Remember that it is a standard textbook. It is not some novel. ठीक है, नॉवल में काम जल्दी जल्दी हो जाता है, पर यहाँ चीज़ें समझना है, रिलेट करना है. ठीक है, वो चीज़ को आपको ध्यान में रखना है. So now next word, social anthropology. Okay, one thing more about Amber and Amber. One of the biggest problem with Amber and Amber is it tends to avoid the entire paper 2. You won't find paper 2, 250 marks weightage, paper 2 is missing here because it is a journal book. Written as a general context. It is not for India or Amber and Amber do not produce books for India specific, Russia or some other country. It is a general understanding of anthropology and major ideas, concept, theories, framework of anthropology. It is not a book designed for optional subject and certainly not for definitely the Indian society. So the entire portion of paper 2, Indian archaeology from Indian Paleolithic to the Indian Metal Ages to Indus Valley civilization to the Indian society, the dharma, arth, kama, moksha, the Indian village system, the social changes in India, the contribution of the Indian scholars, the entire tribal India portion, it is completely missing. So what is the benefit of giving 4 months to a particular book? Or let's say if you are disciplined, giving 1.5 months to a book which is not covering the entire paper to 250 marks for your optional subject. All right, keep that in mind. Even for paper 1, a lot of question nowadays will be asked in a manner that illustrate or discuss the impact of the processes of social change like industrialization, urbanization, modernization on the Indian marriages, on the Indian family, the disintegration of joint family. So these Indian context questions are not being there. They are not present. In certain questions where ways of acquiring mates need to be mentioned, you'll find it irrelevant here. In fact, in that you have to often quote the example of the Indian tribes, that which tribe has the mode of acquiring through the elopement, the practice of elopement, through intrusion, through bride capture, through bride price. So you won't find the examples in the Indian context. So it is not very much important if we keep in mind that we are going to give option only 6 to 8 months. All right. If you are keeping in your mind that I am ready to give optional at least 1.5 years, then page to page, cover to cover reading of these books can be underdone. Otherwise, smartly read only the portion that has been asked. All right. Now coming to the social anthropology portion, same is the problem. Most of the books which are written here are on an average 30 to 35 years old. For example, the books by Makan Jha and Nadeem Hasnain, they are published around 90s, or some of the books also have some early edition in early 20s. So even if they are in early 20s, they are old by 2 decades. If they are in 90s, they are old by 3 decades. And the one which is probably known by everyone, D.N. Majumdar and T.N. Madan, this was first published in the year 1957, before Prime Minister Nehru died. All right. So it is going to be around 50 years old. Sorry, 50 not. I think it is going to be more than 60 years old. All right. If you see this particular book by D.N. Majumdar. So the question comes in your mind that social anthropology is believed to be very static. What has changed in social anthropology? You have to discuss the universality of marriage. You have to discuss what is family, the types of family, the types of kinship, the kinship terminology. What is going to change? See, the questions which are coming in the examination nowadays are focusing upon the social change, as discussed earlier. So if social change will be asked in the examination, you have to cover it from a more nuanced, a more contemporary source than these old